Alright, so this is a bit of a weird video. I was sent this game by one of my best friends because it's my birthday today. Although I am recording this at 12:50 in the morning, but it's whatever, it's semantics, you know? This is not what I had intended to record for my birthday video, but here we are. It's gonna be just a nice, chill video. Hopefully. I don't know what this game is like, but let's find out, shall we? I do like this intro music though. Like, honestly, if I could just have this on loop, I could just sleep to this. It's very nice. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for nice ambassador things. Because apparently you're an ambassador? I don't really know the story yet. That's all I really know. Detecting user profile. User profile not found. Please enter your name. Well, whenever I have to enter a name, I always go with the tried and true Kaiser. Choose a color. Show more colors. How many colors we got? It's a lot of colors. I think I'll just take, oh my. I'm just gonna take blue. Blue's a color I understand. Does it look right? No. Give me a different color. Is it like a purple? Is it magenta? Oh, there's purple. Okay, good. There we go. That looks better. User profile confirmed. Before we start, please review the following information. Controls. Use left click or enter to advance text and select menu options. Press space to advance text only. This is useful to avoid making a selection by mistake. Escape or right click brings up the menu. F toggles full screen. Use the mouse wheel or page up and down to review past messages and rewind. Hold Control and press Tab to skip seen messages, S takes a screenshot, middle click or H hides the text window. If you wish to view this information again, you can do so from the main menu. That would be all. Alright, the year is 20XX. So, that's a lot of numbers. That is a significant amount of numbers. Only recently has humanity discovered a portal that leads into a different world, populated with a race of intelligent talking dragons. I was one of the few to travel to this world. But maybe I should start at the beginning. It all began when we discovered a strange device in the middle of nowhere during one of our expeditions, a portal. After our first tests, we found there was someone else on the other side who was in possession of a similar portal, and our attempts at communication through letters were successful. But in the end, the machine's extraordinary demand for power meant we needed to act quickly, as we wouldn't be able to keep the portal open for much longer. We made this known to the other side. We received a very unexpected reply, a letter of invitation. After some deliberation, it was decided to accept their hospitality and send a person to the other side. There was an individual who took the job almost immediately. Reza Izquierdo. I knew him, or rather had known him. We attended the same school back then, and even had a few classes together. We never really were very close friends, but we talked to each other occasionally and hung around with the same crowd sometimes. However, we still went our separate ways in the end. I wasn't sure what to think about the whole thing, but I had to have known what he was doing. He certainly was brave. Either that, or just very, very foolish. While I wasn't sure which, his courage was applauding by others. After all, he couldn't possibly have known who or what would await him on the other end of the portal. And if he did meet someone there, who knew what kinds of intentions they might have? Not that any speculation on our part would have made a difference. When the data finally came through, he went, with an applause echoing across the area. Equipped only with the clothes he wore, his multi-tool, a gun, and a device on his waist that acted as a PDA. Then we waited. The crowd was applauding him slowly dispersed when the enthusiasm died down, as there was nothing for us to do but wait and speculate. Approximately 8 hours later, we received our first message from him. While we had assumed the portal led to another in a different country, or maybe on a different continent, the reality turned to be out much more foreign. The situation he described to us was so outlandish that we initially took it as a joke. A very bad joke, maybe. even with worse timing and no punchline at all. It soon became clear to us, though, that we may have just made out one of the most important discoveries since the dawn of mankind. Finding the portal had been remarkable in itself, but this took it to a completely different level. From what he described about the place, or more accurately, its inhabitants, we surmised it could not be part of Earth at all. We called them dragons because, according to Reza, that's what they are, or at least what they resembled most. Even though we found it hard to believe, it had been these dragons who sent us all the letters, and what Reza found on the other side of the portal was a whole civilization of them. They could talk, write books, had buildings and electricity. In many ways, their society was actually very similar to our own. So, who were they? And where was this place? Could they be aliens? Speculations led us to conclude otherwise. After all, we knew about the existence of thousands of planets millions of light years away that may have been theoretically habitable, yet even then we had never found conclusive proof in regards to actual alien life forms. Though some people brought up quantum mechanics and parallel universes, but in the end, all of this was just conjecture and ultimately fruitless endeavor, since we never had the means nor the resources to explore these possibilities in greater detail. I think there's just one more thing worth mentioning before I move on. The previous isolation had been mutual. They hadn't known about any other intelligent life form beyond our own. Our portal had only recently been discovered and was a technology previously unknown to them. And just as we had myths about dragons, they had myths about us. That was what we knew about them so far. And as interesting as learning as those things and debating their cultural significance was, we don't really know what we should make of it all. Reza apparently was sure of what he was doing, though as he eventually let us know that they had agreed on a trade. We were to give them a few of our PDA devices which contained vast amounts of knowledge, dwarfing even that of encyclopedias. In return, they would supply us with generators. Overall, it didn't seem as technologically advanced as we had been, but they did surpass us in that one aspect. Their means of generating energy seemed sustainable. Not only that, but evidently also quite efficient. We certainly would be able to put technology like that to good use, and trading mere past knowledge of the human race for something more tangible was a good call on his part. That was where I came in. My prior experience in both biology and sociology made me a good fit to deliver our PDA devices for the trade. And while in the Dragon's world waiting for the prototypes of our generators to be manufactured by them, I would act as an ambassador on humanity's behalf. What a way to make a first impression by a display of mutual goodwill. Everyone benefits, and everyone goes home happy. All is well. At least, that was the plan. Despite the images that living talking dragons might conjure up in some people's minds, I didn't think of bringing a weapon myself, considering that they were reportedly friendly and peaceful enough. There's no need for me to fear potential ill intentions like Reza did when he had stepped into the unknown territory and acted as humanity's ambassador. I had to do my best to uphold a high standard in fostering this diplomatic relationship. When the time came for me to step through the portal, all my mental preparedness vanished. My anxiousness was fueled by all the questions lurking in my head. Just as the machine started to do its work, would it hurt? Who would I meet on the other side? What if they really weren't so friendly and just made Reza write those letters with the pretense of appearing friendly, only to lure us into a den of man-eating monsters and certain doom, with us ending up as nothing more than a tasty afternoon snack? Maybe I should have brought a weapon after all. Suddenly, I feel a shiver coursing through my whole body and beyond when I disintegrate, as if every cell, every atom of my body was torn from me and pulled into a different direction. I saw darkness and lights, painting patterns in the stars as I traveled. Images rapidly flashed before me of things unseen and unspoken, both horrifying and beautiful. It was an experience unlike any other, yet over in such a split second. Then it was dark. I could only see a patch of lighter color constraining with its dark surroundings as my vision started to clear. Its edges got sharper as the patch of light slowly took shape, giving me the distinguished outline of a reptilian head, an array of horns spouting from it. Hey you, you're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right? Walk right into that Imperial ambush. Wait, I'm supposed to be serious? Oh well. It was a dragon. And as I could now see, a dragon who not only had a pair of round glasses, but also wore a burgundy tie around its neck. In the name of our people, I bid you welcome. If I may introduce myself, I am Remy, your guide and ambassador, a representative of our council. The dragon spoke. It was one thing to have heard of and read about this, but something else entirely to have one standing in front of me, flesh and blood, and tongue. It was good that all my mental preparedness had disappeared when I was teleported, because nothing could have prepared me for this. Sorry, I imagine you might still feel the effects of the teleportation. Drowsiness or weakness not unusual, and is fainting and spontaneous emptying of your bowels, bladder, or stomach. How do you feel? Rendered speechless. I had totally forgotten that I was shouldering the burden of representing my people to them as well. So much for being professional. But at least he gave me a good excuse for my blunder. I think I'm alright. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Maybe we should go before it gets too dark. Come with me, please. So I followed the dragon, not straying too far from him, as the sun had already departed for the day, and the remaining light diminished by the minute. It is getting hard to see where I'm going. Sorry about that, but we had a good reason to schedule your arrival like this. We did not want you to be ambushed by a crowd, so we had to keep your exact time and date of arrival secrets. Thanks, I suppose. An event like this would make me a celebrity of sorts. It would be the same if one of you came to us. That's quite an understatement. Some people here are rather superstitious. They might regard you or any of your kind as divine, I suppose. Really? How so? We do have certain myths that involve humans and as such. Oh, I suppose the history lesson will have to wait for another time. Here we are. By this point, it had gotten so dark that I could barely make out any of the buildings before us. I briefly wondered whether they might have streetlights elsewhere, or if they just did not require any due to possibly enhanced eyesight or night vision. I could vaguely see the dragon, his light color still visible within the blackness that engulfed the area, rear up and manipulate the door handle with one of his forepaws. Hinges creaking, the door opened, and with the flick of a switch, the apartment was flooded with light, blinding me after all the time we had just spent without it. This is where you will live for the time being. It is fully stocked, but in case you need anything else, I left you a note with a few phone numbers. It is getting rather late, so I'll have to take my leave now. In any case, someone will come and meet you in tomorrow morning. Thank you, Remy. Have a good night. Until we meet again. With a nod, Remy left the apartment, mindful enough to close the door behind himself. Surveying the room, I considered the events that had just transpired, as my gaze met the window. I could see movement outside, and as I drew nearer, startled, I could hear footsteps in the grass, moving away quickly, assuming which had been the dragon I just met. I thought nothing of it, and I went to bed and slowly succumbed to the sweet allure of sleep overdue. I spent a few moments thinking about my role, my mission, and what it meant to be here now. I felt the responsibility placed on my shoulders. I was eager for the adventure to come. Oh, uh, hmm. I'm eager. So many possibilities and prospects raced through my mind. Truth be told, the thought of being able to meet an entirely new species and civilization excited me, as I was going to be the first one of the first to truly experience their society with its own little quirks, differences, and similarities. I couldn't help but feel like I was some modern Vasco da Gama or Marco Polo. Maybe I would even write a book about the whole experience after it's all over. I was sure it would become a hit, all things considered. At any rate, this was going to be fun. Chapter 1, Inception. Oh my. I awoke from uneasy dreams, looking at an unfamiliar ceiling. Just for a moment, I wondered where I was before the events of last night came all back to me. After a good stretch, I looked around the room, illuminated by the sunlight coming in from the window. Outside in the distance, the portal I had emerged from proudly stood on the peak of a small hill. Getting ready, I noticed something lying on the table. It was the note Remy had left for me, in case I needed anything, along with his own phone number and work number. There were also some numbers for delivery of food and other necessities, as well as emergency and even janitorial services. He had certainly thought of everything, even though I now had to wonder what a dragon plumber might look like. My musings were interrupted when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was met by another dragon. Oh my. Hello, you must be Kaiser. I'm Sebastian, and I'll be your escort, or security, I suppose. Usually I work for the police, though. Nice to meet you. He seemed a lot smaller than Remy, and when he somewhat nervously extended his arm towards me, I noticed he apparently only walked on his hind legs. The two forelimbs instead having distinct arms, hands, and fingers. Shake his hand. When I took his hand into mine to shake it gently, I could feel the individual bumps and scales of his rough skin. Nice to meet you too, Sebastian. So where are you taking me? Straight to business, eh? We're going to visit the plant, where they are making your generators. They have some news for you, or so I've heard. Reza will be there too. Sounds great. Just follow me. While we walked, I was under the impression we were purposely avoiding the busier parts of town, instead straying towards the edges and small alleys as to not garner too much attention. Even then, we got the occasional stare. After just a couple of minutes, we arrived at our destination, where we were to meet by Reza, as well as the another dragon, a vicious-looking beast that didn't stay too close to him. Well, well, well. If it isn't Reza. Hey! Reza, long time no see. How true that is. Good to finally see another human face around here. What a coincidence to have you, of all people, show up. Yeah, I guess those degrees aren't so useless after all. By the way, who's your friend? Just my bodyguard, same as yours. Don't bother with him, he doesn't talk much. He looks grumpy. That's what he always looks like, and yes, that does mean he's always grumpy. The two dragons exchanged a few words, and as I met the gaze of the larger, tenebrous dragon a few paces from us, Sebastian turns toward me and spoke up again. Hey Kaiser, this is Maverick. Nice to meet you. Yeah, whatever. Just don't expect me to give you any special treatment like everyone else is, and we'll be good. What are you talking about? So you're saying you haven't noticed the stairs and how they all treat you like you're the next messiah or something? No, I just thought... We're not the ones making a big deal of this, you are. We're just here to get what we agreed on and we'll be gone. If anything, I'd actually prefer if you left us alone. But you're the one who insists on following me around wherever I go. A growl escaped the darker dragon's trembling lips, and he bared his teeth at Reza. Alright, that's quite enough. Let's all just go inside already, shall we? After you. The crisis was quickly averted as we entered the building, which was characterized by its many floors, high ceilings, and long narrow hallways as Sebastian led us to our destination. There you are. I was waiting for you. Oh my. Wait a minute, I thought we were going to meet the guys for production. What are you doing here? They're only coming in later today, so you'll just have to make do with me. I see. Well, Kaiser, this is Anna. She kind of manages this building, though actually she's more involved with the research wing rather than production and engineering. Nice to meet you. My pleasure. I have something for you, by the way. I'll take them a while to make all the generators we promised, but we've got one for you here. Feel free to send it home and give it a test. That's great. I'll take it. Looks a little small, if you ask me. Don't underestimate its power. Oh, and do be careful not to drop it. Sure, I'll be waiting outside when you do your thing, Kaiser. I suppose I'll wait for you outside as well. What a thing. Oh, have you brought the PDA? Of course. Here we go. Alright. Now to give this thing a test run. The PDA lit up as her hand swiftly moved around its interface and calculated motions. By the way, would you consider letting me run some tests on you as well? It would only take a drop of your blood. What? Why? I work in biology, so obviously this kind of thing would be very interesting to us. I'd share the results with you, of course. Fuck it, why not? Great. She was quick to produce a small device from a drawer, which from a glance reminded me a lot of a test tube. If you give me your hand, please. As I reached out to her, she took my hand into hers before she pressed the device into the back of my hand. I winced as pain jolted through my hand. Something sharp drove itself through my skin, and shortly afterwards, a droplet of blood was sucked into the tube, attached to the small needle. Thanks. You're welcome. You gave Anna your blood. Looks like your PDA is good, by the way, so we're just about done here. And since we're both in biology, it could be interesting if you would to meet me some other time as well. Here's my number. Alright. See you soon. That dragon was clearly hitting on me. Well, that was interesting. Did you ask for your blood too? Yeah. Did you give it her? Yeah. Oh, well, that's your choice. We've got no idea what they might do with it, though. I'm getting hungry. How about some breakfast? I'm all for it. I can't stand early mornings like this. That shouldn't be a problem. There's a cafe not far from here. What do you say, Mavers? I wouldn't mind to grab a bite myself. That settles it then. Luckily for us, the cafe was mostly empty when we arrived, as it was still pretty early in the day. Reza was quick to lead me to a table for two, prompting the dragons to get one of their own at the other side of the restaurants. Ugh, enough. I can't stand that guy being on my tail all the damn time. Let's see. Maybe he just likes you a lot. We were approached by an individual who appeared to be a waitress at the cafe. She was an interesting-looking dragon who, unlike the others I had seen so far, was more akin to a wyvern, possessing two rather large wings as her forelimbs, which resembled those of an oversized bat. Oh, it's the humans! Oh, it's a dragon. That's a good one. Welcome to our establishment. My name's Adine. I'll be your waitress today. What can I bring you to? I'm curious what the special is. Yeah, me too. Just make it quick. Sure thing. 2 specials coming right up. As I was saying, if you look at the big picture, don't you think there's just something off about this whole place? Where is it really? If this is supposed to be a completely separate place from Earth, or even a different dimension, some things just don't add up. Don't you think so too? Let me just grab my tinfoil hat real quick. I've been here much longer than you have been. Maybe you'll see soon enough. I can't really say much more with you. No, who over there? He's probably listening to us right now. What a creep. When I left my gaze wander, I saw Maverick was looking in my direction. Our eyes met briefly, his expression not showing any discernible emotion. Well, I wondered whether it had been just a coincidence or if he really was able to hear us from the distance. I do have some theories, and if I'm right, we might be in trouble. What kind of trouble? What are you talking about? Shh! Be quiet! I'll let you know more as soon as I can, but for now, let's just play along. After all, we already have one of those babies. He patted the generator's box for emphasis. God knows we need him. Ah, there she comes. The female returned, astounding me with her ability to balance dishes on the edges of her wings. She placed her forelimb on the table and proceeded to move the dishes from her wing to us with a gentle push of her snout. There you go. Watch out. It's hot. Thanks. You're welcome. Apparently today's special consisted of an odd-looking fish of some sort. I was a little hesitant to try it, but considering the steam coming from it, it was probably better to wait a few minutes anyways. When the waitress brought out the meals to the 2 dragons at the cafe and exchanged a few words with them, Reza leaned forward and whispered something to me. I'll send you a letter with a coded message later. You'll know what to do. Reza rose from his seat before he made it known to me that he still had a few things to do, and left the restaurant, followed shortly after by the larger of the 2 dragons. But you haven't even touched your fish. I wasn't in a hurry, so I spent a few more minutes of contemplation while I looked out the window. Not that this whole situation was already bizarre enough. There was also now the vague sense of danger conveyed by Reza's earlier words. I did not even have an idea what kind of threat might be lurking out there. Eventually, I took a bite of my somewhat unusual breakfast, while I already thought the smell was quite peculiar. The taste had been even worse. I imagine it might be the kind of delicacy that had an acquired taste, one that I certainly hadn't acquired yet. I decided to get outside before it was too late.
Are you done?
Sure I am.
How'd you like it?
I'd just say it's probably not for me.
And you wouldn't be the only one to say that. You ought to wait outside just in case it decides to come up again.
You notice the odd-looking fish. Oh, you tried the odd-looking fish. Sure thing. I stepped outside, taking in the scenery of the strangely familiar world. In the short time I was here, I already found the similarities between their worlds and our own utterly fascinating. After all, we were talking about an unmapped place with a never-before seen form of life. As far as discoveries were concerned, even something as simple as a new unicellular organism, or even bacteria, would have been remarkable. Yet, here I was, standing in the middle of a village, evidently built by this race of intelligent talking dragons, with a society not unlike our own. Reza didn't seem to share the same interest and instead was more smitten with the generator. But given our reason for coming here in the first place, I couldn't blame him for his enthusiasm being forced on something else. My thoughts were interrupted as something suddenly zipped past me, just a little too close, causing me to stumble back. It was a rather small dragon with a bag clamped in its maw, who apparently had to be somewhere. That's a cute little dragon. Must be a young dragon, I'm guessing. I regained my footing and watched it disappear into the distance. Even though I've seen enough dragons recognize the variation of size, color, and other attributes. I guess this one must have been a juvenile of its species. Shortly afterwards, Sebastian joined me outside, having taken care of the tab.
I gave her a generous tip on your behalf. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, how nice of you.
In any case, now that you've given us the PDA and Reza has the generator, you're free for today. So if you want to go anywhere particular, let me know, or I could show you around town.
I also wanted to be given a tour, but considering Reza's words, I wanted to be careful and not stray too far without knowing more about this world first. I think I'll stay home for today. I still have to get used to everything, you know?
I'll just accompany you back then. There we are.
Home sweet home. For now, at least.
Well, if you need anything, I'll be outside until my shift ends. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
See ya.
I hadn't really looked at the apartment much, so I spent the rest of the day investigating it and relaxing. I considered checking out some of the phone numbers Remy had left me, but I thought it was better to keep a low profile for now. I found the kitchen fully stocked with plenty of groceries, though the variety was wasted on me. I hadn't been a particularly great cook in the first place. But what was more, I didn't even recognize some of the things I found there. Whether they were edibles that we had back home that I just didn't know about, or something completely alien, I wasn't sure. But I didn't want to take the risk of eating anything I didn't know. After all, it was possible that some of the comestibles might be fine for them to eat, but still be poisonous to us. I was also glad to find a shelf that was filled to the rim with a variety of books. While I found the subject matter of man, myth, or reality to be quite intriguing, I had to give up after a few pages due to its exceptionally dry writing style, which I wasn't inclined to enjoy at the moment. In the end, I settled for an adventure novel about a dragon archaeologist who stumbles upon the remains of a long-lost human civilization, after which she is hunted by an evil organization who wants to use the found magical artifacts for its own nefarious purposes. While entertaining, I had to admit that it reminded me a little too much of the trashy novels we had at home. I certainly found it amusing that certain tropes were not really unique to us as a species. I wondered whether this kind of literature had fallen into disfavor here, as it had back where I had come from. I was reading a particularly exciting scene in which the hero, Sheridan, used one of the magical artifacts shaped like a pair of human hands, holding a scepter with a globe at the top to prevent herself from being crushed in the ground into a bloody pulp by an ancient human temple's moving walls, when I suddenly heard the doorbell ring. Another cute little dragon.
Hello there, would you please sign here?
I'm not signing away my rights with this, am I?
I got a letter for you that requires signature confirmation.
I see. Looking over the clipboard the small dragon was holding up to me, I saw that the sending letter of the letter in question was Reza. There you go.
I'm Lauren, by the way. Would you mind if I ask you a few questions? What is this about? I'm just making small talk. Wait a minute, I recognize you. You try to do the same thing with Reza. Maybe I should report you to your superiors for inappropriate behavior towards your clients.
But it's important. Please, I must talk with Kaiser for a few minutes.
You know how it is. If you want to interview with one of the humans, you'll have to get permission from the proper authorities.
Help me out here, Kaiser. As an ambassador, would you care to about the accurate portrayal of humans in the media, don't you? Then you should talk to me. Otherwise, someone else will fill in the blanks of who knows what they'll come up with. Let me show you something. The small dragon opened his bag, rummaging through a number of letters and small packages. I think I lost it. Anyway, I wanted to show you some pictures of what people think humans look like. On some of them, they have like 4 heads and look nothing like you. It's crazy. What are you, Laura? A reporter? No, I'm just...
Do you want me to remove him, Kaiser?
Is what he's saying is true?
Yeah, I guess.
I see, that sounds pretty interesting though. Alright, you can leave your number here and maybe I'll call you later, but that's all I can promise. Thank you so much. He quickly produced a small sheet of paper and scribbled his number on it. Afterwards, he sheepishly presented it with both hands.
Alright, you got what you wanted. Off you go now. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
I guess that should be all. I'll see you tomorrow then.
Right. With all the commotion, I almost forgot that it was still holding Rez's letter. Within the plain envelope was a similarly plain sheet of paper with his handwriting. When I started reading, however, I saw that his wording was so full of the pleasantries I knew he hated that I assumed every word of it was fake, as to conceal his true intent. He did mention I'd know what to do, but I was unsure of how I was supposed to decode the letter's secret message. I didn't remember ever having a conversation about this topic with him, yet he still relied on me to remember whatever it was that I was missing. Or he thought I would be able to just figure it out on my own. This is what it said. Hello, my dear friend. I hope this letter reached you swiftly and in good condition. Unfortunately, we were not able to catch up earlier, so I want to write you this letter. How have you been these last few years? What have you been doing? How's the family? I feel like there is so much we should talk about, since we have not seen each other much recently. At least we have the chance to do so in this form. Quite an exciting venture we are on now, right? How have you liked it here so far? Made any dragon friends yet? Anyways, I'll be looking forward to your reply soon. Best regards, Reza. Various things came to mind. Only reading certain words of letters was one that I thought of immediately, but I couldn't make out anything after trying to find a system within its array of letters and lines. Maybe I had to look more carefully. Look elsewhere for hints, I guess? Can I, like, light it on fire? Or maybe he referred to the fact that we were both given an apartment. Considering the things they provided for us, maybe I just had to find the right object to decode the message. There were many everyday items here, though, and of course, I still had no idea what in particular I was looking for. Let's look in the, let's look at the kitchen. I like the idea of lighting on fire. No, I can't just put it on the stove. Oh well. I need to lower the music, 'cause the music has been, like, very loud, like, oppressively loud, I feel. I've just been kind of ignoring it, but now that I actually have some sort of control, I can actually, like, have time to turn it down a little bit. Alright, let's see. Look in the fridge, or the pantry, or I can go back and look at something else. Let's look at the fridge. Plenty of stuff in here. Meat, milk, crack open an egg. Examine an unlabeled container. It's an unlabeled container with some sort of white liquid inside. Well, here goes nothing. Oh no, I found the cum jar. Except it's the cum container. It's salty. You drink a mysterious liquid. I don't know if I would have done that, to be honest. I just drank the salty white liquid. I don't know if I would have done that, to be honest. I don't think there's much in the fridge. I don't know if I want to keep eating random shit in the fridge. Let's look at the pantry. Fruit and veg. A date, a fig, a pear, a grape, a lemon. Ooh, what if I were to squirt lemon juice on it? Would that reveal, like, hidden stuff in the lines? Lemons! Lemons! Lemons, of course! Why didn't I realize it sooner? Lemon juice is about the simplest way to write a hidden message using household items. Well, I wasn't expecting that to actually work. I still wanted to try fire, but I guess I can't try fire. We learned about that in chemistry, in the most boring detail, of course. A message written in lemon juice on paper becomes just invisible to the naked eye when dried. But after heating it gently, oxidization occurs, making less visible. I knew I had to use fire! I was sitting next to him in class when we learned that. He made a joke about using the method to cheat on the next test, and I replied by saying he'd have to bring an iron. He had really expected me to remember a random chemistry class that happened years ago, but then I did remember it after all. Meet me at the portal tonight, 10 p.m., was all the message said. I wasted a good amount of time, but I still had some left before I'd have to go out to meet Reza, so I decided to make some lunch. Afterwards, I resumed reading my book about the continuing adventures of Sheridan and her exploits in destroying cultural artifacts. Unsurprisingly, it came to a happy end with the evil organization stopped in its tracks, at least for now. I thought the ending was deliberately left open for ambiguity, but when I turned the page and saw the advertisement for the next entry in this apparently long-running series of books, I realized all this had just been a ploy to set up the inevitable sequel. Luckily, the disappointment didn't last long, as I had to get going to meet Reza at the portal. When I got outside, it didn't seem quite as dark as it was when I arrived yesterday. I had difficulties finding my way otherwise, but I could still see the portal in the distance. As I was walking, I wonder if anyone was following me, but the land seemed oddly deserted. Was everyone already asleep? Spooky. Eventually, I arrived at my destination. Reza was already standing idly by the portal, his fidgeting making it obvious that he was just waited for me. I was already wondering whether you get it at all. What did you expect? What a wonderful night it is. Just look up at the stars. You can see them so clearly here, without all the pollution lingering in the air back home. Almost as if we're looking right at the face of eternity itself. For so long, humanity thought we'd find aliens out there. Yet, after all these years, we found we were still alone in the universe. Turns out we were just not looking in the right place. What's going on, Reza? Why did you call me here? At this time? For one, because we're sending the generator home. Right before I was sent here, they told me they would limit the use of the portal as they couldn't afford to keep it open all the time. In order to keep contact with us and to enable us to send things over to them, the portal would open for just a quarter of an hour each day. Sending something back home wasn't really problematic for us since the high energy expenditure associated with sending bigger objects only affected the sender, not the receiver. However, this also meant that until a business was concluded in regards to trade, the PDAs of the generators were basically stuck here. As for the other, do you know what this place is? You said something about trouble. How much danger are we in, really? More than enough. I'm afraid this whole place will be gone soon, and we better not be here when it happens. Just spit it out already. I hoped you'd see it too, but then it took me a while to understand, and I had a head start on you. In any case, as he was speaking, my gaze wandered and fixed on some movement nearby. It was hard to make out anything, but I imagined it might have just been wind blowing through the nearby shrubbery, except for the fact that there was no wind. Reza? This might take a while to explain, but we've got the whole night. Reza, look. He turned around to face whatever I was seeing. He squinted hard before he called out, You! How dare you follow me here? The disturbance came closer until it became clear that it was Maverick, who had hidden nearby to listen in on our conversation. I knew you were up to no good. What were you talking about? What are you planning here? Some kind of an attack? Wait a minute, there's no reason for... Don't try to deny it. I heard you both talking about it in the cafe, and I saw the letter. You think I couldn't smell the lemon on it? Pathetic. You'll have to come up with me to the police station now. Both of you. Come on, I think you're overreacting. Reza, what are you doing? Come on, Kaiser. Let's get out of here. In the dragon's side, I could see the wound where the bullet had penetrated his hind. A trickle of blood staining his dark scales and the earth beneath. Reza used the opportunity to run off some direction. I wasn't sure which. I frantically scanned my surroundings to look for Reza, though he had already vanished in the darkness. What was I supposed to do? Run away as well? Help Maverick? I was just a diplomat, and I had no idea what was happening. Suddenly the dragon whipped around, hitting me in the guts with his thick tail. I was lifted off the ground briefly before I felt the impact of my body hitting the ground. Hard enough that my vision blurred almost immediately. A deafening roar battered my ears. Was this his cry for help? I could barely move, but I found it better not to try, as to not startle the wounded dragon more than he already was. It certainly would have ended badly for me if he had tried anything. I heard him take a few unsure steps before he lay down on the ground, panting. I'm still watching you, you know. And you better not move for your own good. If I have to get up again and come after you in this condition, I can promise you, I won't be nice. It took a few minutes of listening to his labored breaths before someone arrived. It was two dragons. The first I recognized as Sebastian. The other, I didn't know. I heard Sebastian and Maverick exchange a few words when the stocky fellow approached me. Oh my. What the hell have I got myself into? Hey kid, you alright? I think I'm alright. I'm Bryce, the chief of police of this town. Can you tell me what happened? Uh, Frezza shot Maverick and ran off. Is that so? His face was stern and seemingly lost in thought as I overheard Sebastian's conversation.
Yeah, but you're the flyer on duty. We probably won't find him now. Not here in the darkness, at any rate.
Well, that's just brilliant.
What do you think, Chief?
Kaiser, can you walk? Yeah, I think so. Alright, Sebastian. Take Kaiser to the apartment. Get us some help here from Maverick. And then we'll look for Reza.
Right on. Come on, Kaiser. I'll help you up.
I was still shaken up by the events I just witnessed when I arrived at my apartment. Not knowing anything better to do, I soon fell into a deep slumber. The next day, I awoke with many questions lingering in my head. I considered calling someone from the police department to ask about Reza and Maverick, but in the end, I decided against doing so as I was sure they would contact me if they had anything to tell me. I knew it was no use worrying about it for now, so I settled for starting another book. It didn't take very long, though, before the doorbell rang. Did Bryce, the chief of police, take it upon himself to escort me today? Oh, it's you again. Are you surprised? No, I guess it don't mean bad news. Afraid so. How are you holding up? Better than yesterday, that's for sure. Let's go for a walk then, shall we? Sure. This time I was taking along a different route than yesterday, and I was quite sure there was more to this than just taking a walk. I'll just go ahead and guess you didn't find Reza. Yeah, we hoped he would have come back on his own by now. Did you have any idea where he might be? Maybe he mentioned some sort of place in particular that holds some meaning to him. No, not really. We didn't get a chance to talk much at all yesterday before. There's that too. I have no idea why Reza would have done anything like that. I had the impression that they weren't fond of each other, but this? How is he, by the way? Oh, Maverick is doing fine, but there's plenty of blame to go around. You're right, they didn't particularly like each other. In his statement, Maverick said he suspected Reza of planning some sort of attack. Do you know anything about that? No. He only told me something was going to happen. Not that he was planning anything. At least, that was the impression I got. He's suspecting you too, by the way. That you both planned this all from the beginning. No, that wouldn't make sense. Actually, none of this is making any sense. Why would we go all the lengths of our agreement only to jeopardize it by doing something like this? You even already have our PDAs, and we don't have much to show for it yet. If we had any nefarious plans, this wouldn't have been a very good idea. You do have a good point. I believe you. But from our side, we only have Maverick's word on the whole matter. After all, he was the one who spent the most time with Reza since he arrived here. But even then, he didn't have any reason to follow you yesterday, and his behavior was completely out of line. I'm just glad you came out fine. If he wasn't on mandatory sick leave, he would be suspended right now. We'll have to wait until this whole thing is over before we decide what to do with him. I can assure you, this won't be taken lightly. Maybe they both acted in the heat of the moment. Maybe. We still got quite a lot of our hands now, though. We have a wounded dragon and a missing human. This could lead to a diplomatic crisis. Maybe Reza will show up as soon, and we can get all of this behind us. I hope so too. I really wouldn't want to jeopardize everything over this unfortunate incident. Yeah. But how about we both keep quiet about this whole thing for now? After all, I don't think any of us wants our people panicking about this already, right? I'm merely not in agreement. Oh boy, we're in like a library. Eventually, Oh, it's a police station. We arrived at the police station, where the chief took my formal statement in regards to yesterday's events. He asked me about Reza and Maverick too, whether I knew much of anything that preceded yesterday's events or the mysterious catastrophe Reza had mentioned. Afterwards, he thanked me and left to file in my statement, while I sat by his table, waiting and listening to the ongoings of this small provincial town police department. When he returned, he was approached by someone who seemed to have urgent news. A loud talking between the two ensued that I couldn't make out from my position. This went on for a bit until Bryce returned to me. Afraid I have more bad news for you. Reza has now officially become a murder suspect. Murder? We're headed to the crime scene and hoped you'd come with us. Me? A crime scene? I don't really know much about forensics. It's just that you're the only link to Reza we have. Consider what he said would happen to us. It's in all of our interest that we find him as soon as possible. And if he has anything to do with it, you might be able to help us find him. Your cooperation would certainly be appreciated, and it would be a nice gesture to show us that you're trustworthy in the eyes of those who might think otherwise after what happened yesterday. Will you help us? Yes, I will. I suppose I don't really have much of a choice here, but you're right. We've got to find Reza, and if that's what it takes, then I'll do it. But it will. Let us go then. On our way to the crime scene, he tried to prepare me for what would come. I had studied biology, so I was familiar with the sight of dead animals, asking myself how similar this would be. I wonder if my reaction would be any different if it wasn't a dragon, but a human corpse, I would be saying. When we arrived, we were met by Sebastian, who gave us an overview of the whole situation.
This morning, the victim was found by a delivery flyer for a restaurant. Blood loss from multiple wounds are the likely cause of death. Forensics was already here, so feel free to poke around.
A few paces in front of us, the unfortunate victim lay on the ground, covered by a sheet that concealed the body, but not the large red stain beneath. We approached while Sebastian went off to deter any curious onlookers. I know it won't be pretty, and I'm sorry for putting you through this, but you know what's at stake here. Just remember what I told you, and you should be fine. Alright. Are you ready? Just do it. A green dragon. Lacerations all along the body and wings. A big pool of blood. What do you think? Well, he's definitely dead. Yeah, the rip. Let's just say this will be your test. And tell me what you can deduce from what you see. Give it your best shot. I was already doing that, man. Investigation, start! 2 wings, 2 legs, just like the waitress at the cafe. About as big as a human lengthwise, if not slightly taller. The wingspan would certainly look impressive at that size. The wounds are kind of hard to miss. True, but what are they telling you? A sharp implement? Large or small person. He was already dead. You know, it was clearly a sharp implement. They are clean cuts, like from a knife or another sharp instrument. This is true, but why does that matter? It doesn't really. We know that Reza has a gun. So if there's a bullet hole, that would be useful. I don't know if Reza has a knife, though. You don't think the murder weapon matters? I mean, a lot of these just don't make sense, though. I mean, I guess it... No, this isn't a suicide. I don't think, at least. Could it have been? I mean, I don't see why it couldn't have been Reza. I also... Do dragons not use knives? I don't know. I don't know anything about this place so far, really. It could only have been someone with hands. Yeah, I guess. That's right. Only those of us who walk on 2 legs have the proper dexterity to wield a knife effectively. Most other dragons would probably just bite instead. Of course, this rules out most of the bigger dragons and flyers. But then Reza still has his... What was it called again? You mean his gun? Yeah, if it was him, why would he kill someone with a knife rather than just use his gun on him? Yeah. I guess he wouldn't have wanted to make any noise, I guess, but the body was still found pretty quickly. He lost his gun? I don't see why he would. I think he would want to keep that on him at all times. I guess let's go with the noise route. He did not want to make any noise, after all. He ran away from Maverick, trying to hide from the police. Something as loud as a gunshot would have easily given away his position and alerted others in the area. Right, that could be a good reason. By the way, which wound do you think was the lethal one? I mean, the one on the chest is pretty big, but it's gotta be the neck one. I think it was the one on his neck. That's right. If all the blood from there wasn't a giveaway, this is a stab wound, categorized by a rather small footprint. You could tell that it's also the deepest one. And from the location, it's pretty obvious it must have been done tremendous damage. What else do you see? Well, there's a lot of blood. The blood splatter suggests that... Why does he keep coming up with this suicide option? Like, this is not a suicide. Hemophilic, maybe. Because yeah, hemophilic is, I think, somebody who has, like, bad blood or something. I don't fully know. Let's just go with that option. There's so much blood. Could he have been hemophilic? It is a lot of blood, I'll give you that. But I don't think there's anything to do with hemophilia. I mean, yeah, he died here. If he was dragged here after he was died, there'd be like a trail of blood. It's a pool, so yeah, he was killed here. He died here, else there would have been a trail we could follow. The splatters also suggest that this is where they fought. That's true. Unfortunately, doesn't help with determining who the perpetrator is. Objection! Excuse me? Sorry, I just always wanted to say that. Go on, please. What about the blood on his muzzle? You'll tell me. Blood on his muzzle. And he definitely fought back. So, yeah, no, I think he definitely probably got a bite off on his killer. It might be the perpetrator's blood. Yes, that is true. I expect forensics already took a sample of it, so it might already help us determine who the perpetrator is. I think that's about everything. I got it pretty good. For someone who says they haven't done this kind of thing before, that wasn't actually too bad. I know some recruits who did a lot worse during their first time, for sure.
Hey, Chief, you still need a witness here for anything?
Sebastian approached with the dragon who had discovered the body earlier. I recognized her as Adine, the waitress from the cafe. She seemed distraught, which, with given the situation, wasn't very surprising. I don't think so. Take her to the department, get her statement written up, and that should be it.
Sure thing. Alright, miss. We're gonna have to take you to the department.
Of course. When she spotted me, however, her composure brightened visibly. Oh, it's the human. Well, I'm a human. Well, I'd call you by your name, but you never actually told me. It's Kaiser. What are you even doing here? Do you work for our police now? I guess so. That doesn't sound very convincing. I'm not quite convinced either. By the way, I didn't know you also did deliveries. I do a little bit of everything, really. That's nice. I liked the, fish yesterday. You don't have to hide it. I know it's quite an acquired taste. To be fair, I wouldn't have recommended it to someone new like you, but you could also try something different. Here's our number if you don't want to come in, and we'll deliver anything we have to you. Thanks. Sorry, I guess we should get going. Bye. What do we do now? I suppose we'll head off too, unless... Oh no. What is it? We've got a violent homicide, and of course nobody from the department tells me. I have to find out from a neighbor who wanted to ask me about it. Good thing rumors travel fast, eh? Of course nobody told you. You're on sick leave. Mandatory sick leave, I might add. I'm not here in any official capacity, you see. I am merely enjoying a curative walk in the fresh air and happen to come across you by accident. What do you want? I don't want anything. I just find it interesting that no one tells me about this. But the Prime Suspect's buddy can mess with the investigation? I see how it is. I know what you're thinking, but don't jump to conclusions here. I don't need to jump to conclusions. I think the dead body we found says it all. You really have an attitude problem. You know, if you weren't on sick leave, you'd be suspended right now for attacking Kaiser yesterday. You have any idea what kind of repercussions this could have on us all? Me? Attack Kaiser? As far as I can see, the only one who's injured here. Besides, I'm so sorry for apparently being the only one who's doing his damn job. Right. Let's all just sit idly by while the suspect on the loose and planning his next move. You know, whatever it was Reza was talking about, he was going to tell me just before you showed up yesterday. I don't need to hear you, of all people, belittling me about this. What's your problem? If anything, I want to find him as much as you do. Don't compare yourself to me. Your words mean nothing. Enough. You shouldn't even be here. So you better go now and get some rest before I have to take disciplinary action. Fine. But when we find him, you'll see I was right. If I have to prove it myself, so be it. Can he even just do his own investigation like that? Well, as long as he doesn't interfere with us, we can't really stop him from doing things in his own free time. I see. I suspect he won't adhere to the standards of performing an unbiased investigation, though. He has already made up his mind. It's clear to me he won't be looking for facts, just for evidence to support his own view in order to prove it to us or himself. Who knows? He's always been like that. Always something to prove. We'll have to be careful. He'll be looking for Reza soon enough. Who? Oh, what the hell? My game is just starting to freak out here. Okay. I am gonna have to end this video here, I guess. I was hoping to go a little bit longer, but the game has just kind of freaked out a little bit. That's kind of awkward. Well, I might continue this actually. This was quite enjoyable. Quite a killer on my throat though. Holy shit. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. And yeah, I suppose I'll see you next time for whatever else I might be looking into. I'll see you then.